IVM.
If you like IVM likes, you should definitely check out another show from the IVM network called Geek Fruit. It's a show where three geeks, Tejas, Jishnu and Dinkar, talk about everything science fiction, adventure, fantasy, movies, TV shows, everything. So quench your thirst for geek conversation every week. Episodes out every Monday and Thursday on the IVM podcast app, the IVM website, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hello and welcome to episode 155 of IVM Likes. My name is Abbas and I feel like I have not been on this show for a very long time, but it's not true. I have been on this show. I'm hosting the show after a long time.
And dude, how much attention do you want? You've been on the show the most.
Exactly.
That's true. Those two voices were of my co-anchors or co-guests or guests just
Please,
in general
just like...
of this episode. We have Rutika.
Hi.
And Antariksh.
Balle balle.
Antariksh, you had a hidden Bhangra side inside you, I did not know. IVM Likes is a show where the IVM staffers give you cool pop culture recommendations, and we also take one particular topic and deep dive into it in the second half. In case this happens to be the first time you're listening to the show, please listen to the 154 previous episodes that we have done and go and check out the recommendations. The first round is of our recommendations, so I'm going to kick off the recommendations with Antariksh. Antariksh, what do you have?
Okay, man.
That's because Rutika is still figuring out what to recommend as we speak. So, Antariksh, take it away.
Okay. Abbas, you have done some improv in your life.
Yes, I've been told I'm good at it as well.
Yes, by me, actually. I've seen you do improv and it's been great. So most of our listeners, I imagine a lot of people are aware of Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Sure,
right?
yes.
You guys are both aware.
Yeah.
There's an offshoot of Whose Line Is It Anyway, also produced by Drew Carey, called Drew Carey's Improvaganza.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's another offshoot of Whose Line only called Drew Carey's Green Room.
Okay.
The Green Room with Drew Carey. Sorry, no. It's called the Green Screen Show. My bad, not the Green Room.
Okay.
The Green Screen Show with Drew Carey. Improvaganza is pretty straightforward. It is short, like live in Las Vegas, and they put up this show in front of a live audience at Las Vegas, and they get people from the audience to participate, like regular improv stuff. And some of the games are because it's like a stage. It's not the typical Whose Line stage. Like where the host desk is there. So on Improvaganza,
it's more of a live setup rather than a studio setup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, what was the name of your improv group again?
The etc.
Yeah, correct. It's like what you guys used to do. There used to be not a single host.
Yes.
Like you guys would be all on stage together. Be all on stage together, and so it's basically that. And so Drew participates in a lot more games, Drew Carey, because he would hardly ever do it on
Whose Line. He would just do the end credits.
Correct. Sometimes that too.
Sometimes.
Like sometimes you do hoedowns or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this show is a lot better. Jeff Davis is someone who really stands out on the show. Ryan and Colin are great. Anyway.
Yeah, most of the cast are people you would have seen on Whose Line. Yeah.
But they're larger casts.
Oh.
Yeah, but this larger cast on Improvaganza. Say in an episode of Whose Line, there would be like 4 cast members and 1 Drew Carey. Over here, they can be as close to like 8 to 10 people on stage at the same time, and all of them can participate in a particular game. So it's a lot of fun. Now, that's Improvaganza. All right. Now, what Green Screen Show does differently is all the improv games are played in front of a green screen.
Okay.
And then after that, they hand this footage off to animators.
Okay.
And they animate the scene out. Like say they're acting like in the scene they're cowboys on a horse.
Right.
The animators will put a horse under them.
Got it.
Wow.
Yeah, damn cool. If they're in like a plane, the animators will put plane seats or like plane aisles around them or something. So they do a very good job of it, and it's a fascinating thing to see of what.
But is this also
it's all on YouTube
in front of a live audience?
Yeah, it's all in front of a live audience.
So the live audience sees the final product when the animators are done.
No.
Oh, they're there.
The live audience just sees the green screen.
Okay.
Yeah, just sees the green screen.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a good question actually. The live audience would have just seen the green screen, but in the beginning of each episode, he explains that we're going to hand this off to animators. Yeah. I mean, it's still a fun show.
Still a fun show.
These guys are just top of the game in short form improv. These guys are. So they're good at what they do, and what they do isn't very nice now. That's a Wolverine line. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Wolverine.
So yeah, let's check out both these shows. Drew Carey's Improvaganza and Drew Carey's The Green Screen Show.
Got it.
That's
Very
my
cool.
I was going to call you Alika for a minute. Sorry, Rutika.
It's a compliment, but still.
It's all ikas.
Because
Yeah, do it. Radhika,
please
Alika,
do not
Rutika.
call me Komolika.
Well, now I'm just going to call you Komalika.
We have a Madhurika.
But before I come to your recommendation, you've been doing some improv as well, right?
Yes.
So what has your what been your experience like
I'm sorry,
so far?
I didn't bring that up because Abbas has been doing it a lot longer, and I didn't even think. I'm so sorry.
See,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
He didn't
Also-
even consider me as an improviser.
Yeah, I also do it well. So,
I mean,
but Rutika, you've been improv has been in your life for what, the last 4 months or so?
Yes, and I'm terrible at it.
no man, you're pretty good, dude. Pretty nice.
Yeah, I know. Antariksh
that's
came
fun.
for the show and he was really nice and polite and he told me that it was a good show.
Yeah, it was
It was a good show actually. Yeah, even
Yeah.
I was there for the show. I gave you detailed feedback about the show.
Yeah. Like an hour of feedback, guys. I have like an hour of voice recorded feedback from Abbas.
Wow.
No, I've been with you on some improv jams as well. You have a quick mind. With practice, it'll get better.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay, that's like a ray of sunlight.
Okay. I think that's Rutika's recommendation. Please come watch me live do improv.
Every alternate Tuesday at
Tuesdays.
the Habitat 9
Yeah,
p.m.
like
You
I go
just
for
plug
open mics right
an
now.
improv jam.
Yes.
But what is your recommendation for this episode?
My recommendation for this episode is an account on Instagram called The Happy Broadcast. And right now we're all going through a turbulent time.
She's laughing because Antariksh was taking an Insta story which I waved at, and just at that moment he stopped taking the Insta story. Yeah, please continue.
There's this right now we're just in a very turbulent situation in the country. We're reading a lot of news that's quite upsetting, and of course we're trying to do everything we can to show up for protests and everything. But I feel like when you're online, there is now a new term about the kind of anxiety that is created when you're on social media. So to counter that and
What
to
is
counter,
that? What does that anxiety have a name?
I think there's a name for it now. I've forgotten
Broadcast
the name.
anxiety.
That's the anxiety that you broadcast on social media,
That's
but
true.
not the kind that you get from social media. But this is an account that tries to counter hate and fear that is created by certain like news articles on social media, and it's called The Happy Broadcast.
Okay.
And it's by this artist called Moro Gatti, and there are a few other artists that are also, they are also illustrators that work on this account, and they try to share happy, feel good news. So one news that I mean the first thing I discovered on this account was Diego, like a 100-year-old giant Galapagos tortoise who this species was declining, and this tortoise and his sex drive was so strong
Wow. Okay.
that he
Single hand. Oh yeah, I saw this.
yeah, like he procreated, like he gave birth to, like not he but the
Yeah.
woman gave birth to 800
Yeah, but
other
the woman
tortoise.
was inseminated by this dude, this
by
turtle.
this dude with amazing sex drive.
So this it was a picture of this turtle going back to his whatever, like the cave or whatever he's in, and the meme said stud going back after having repopulated his entire population.
Right.
So I saw
With an
a
amazing
meme of
setup.
this, which is I'm checking out the Insta page right now, which is what they have made a cartoon out of. Like some sex drive goals or something that. It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because now, I mean, what he did was, it was a massive
You mean
success.
the turtle? I don't know about the
Yes,
turtle or the
turtle.
page right now.
The turtle.
The turtle, okay.
But the page is amazing,
Yeah.
and I
Is
think
that
you should,
all they share? It would be hilarious if they just shared
basically
stories of-
Abbas's goal is to be on that page
stories
for his
of
amazing sex drive.
animals with amazing sex drive.
No, there's a lot of other things that they share. And yeah, so I think you should check it out, especially because I very briefly was off social media because of everything that was happening, and I was very upset. And I realized the main reason for that was social media.
Right.
But now I'm back and I am trying to not be in denial of what's happening, but just also share positive news, and this page actually makes me do that.
Nice.
I think these kind of pages are really popular nowadays.
Yeah, there's also the
yeah.
respectful memes page.
Yeah,
which is
correct.
they take the format of a really mean-spirited meme, but the punchline is actually very nice.
Positive.
Like it's a very positive. Yeah.
Oh, this reminded me of something on the new development on Instagram. Did you guys hear about photoshopped images will be flagged on Instagram?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know this. Really?
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
what
good
I heard.
actually.
I mean, but dude, everything on Instagram is already photoshopped. You gotta flag everything.
I mean, there's a difference between putting filters and actually photoshopping something.
Is very different.
No, but like graphic art and all this, that's all is Photoshop and Illustrator and all. Like, how can you just flag everything?
That's okay. As long as they're just informing me this image is Photoshop, I'm cool with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, cool. So
what's your recommendation?
The Happy Broadcast was Rutika's recommendation. My recommendation is a film that had been on my watch list since November when I missed it at the Mumbai Film Festival, and then it got on Netflix, and I'd been putting it off because it's a 3.5-hour movie. I'm talking about The Irishman.
Wait, it was shown at the Mumbai Film Festival?
It was shown at the Mumbai Film Festival.
Oh, nice.
It sold out in seconds.
Of course.
It was screened at Regal Cinema, which has 1,100 seats, and they were all gone in 45 seconds.
Lord.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So finally got down to watching this on one of the recent weekends, and it was totally worth all the hype.
Okay.
So the thing is, how familiar are either of you with Scorsese's filmography? I think Antariksh might
kind of,
be.
yeah,
Pretty familiar.
Have you guys seen Goodfellas and
Of course.
Casino?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Scorsese has already made Departed, Goodfellas and Casino, three of the most quoted and most well-respected gangster films, right? So when
Wolf of Wall Street is kind of a gangster film as well.
Kind of.
Like it's
But
made
I
in
don't
similar
know.
style, but
it
it's
has
not
the bravado of a
correct.
gangster film,
That's
but it's
true.
more
But
with
it's
the
not-
con man aspect of it.
Correct.
So when he announced this film, and I was like, Robert De Niro is coming back, and Al Pacino is going to be the first time on Scorsese and Joe Pesci, who gave such memorable performances in Goodfellas and Casino. I was like, does he really need this? Because he's like in the last few stages of his career, and why is he doing this? He's already made classic gangster films.
Does Joe Pesci get another? What do you make you laugh? Yeah, I'm funny.
I mean, Al Pacino gets a similar moment,
Really?
but Joe Pesci in this one is the exact opposite of the kind of roles he played on Goodfellas and Casino. He's very calm. He's very composed. He's like one of those very sort of easygoing gangsters.
And that's what's intimidating about him.
That's what's intimidating about him. But so when I'm like 3.5-hour movie, but I'll tell you what sets this film apart, right? The first 2.5 hours of the film is like Scorsese's greatest hits.
Okay.
If you loved Goodfellas, if you loved Casino, if you loved Departed, all the it's like your favorite band playing your favorite songs. It's like everything you wanted to see in a Scorsese gangster film with De Niro, with Pacino. It's all there. The music, the dialogue delivery, all of that. The last 1 hour is Scorsese doing like a meditation of, so both Casino and Goodfellas and even Departed, or even any gangster movie in general, we often see that the lives of these gangsters are so fragile that it either ends with them dying or it ends with them losing. Like Goodfellas ends with him going to witness protection and realizing that now my life isn't as cool as it used to be. Irishman is the only Scorsese film, or the only gangster film that meditates on what happens when neither of those things happen. These people grow really old and they have to live with the guilt of all the horrible things they did in their life.
I think there's a Johnny Depp movie. I think
Public Enemies?
No.
Silence.
Wait, I forgot this movie, dude. There's a Johnny Depp movie in which he plays a drug dealer.
Okay.
And
Ram Diaries?
No.
The Ram
in which
Diaries,
so he has a daughter, and I forgot the movie, dude. What
Donnie
is the movie?
Brasco, Public Enemies.
Not Donnie
Okay.
Brasco.
Anyway, so
Okay,
The Irishman, it's the Robert De Niro character. It starts with him at an old age home, and he's recollecting all these things that we see play out on screen.
Yeah.
So the last 1 hour is really it's the De Niro character staring and coming to terms with death, and that I think is what sets this film apart from everything else that Scorsese has done, especially in the gangster genre. It's a very serious look. I mean, it's not. I mean, both Goodfellas and Casino, they leave kind of like a cocky sort of. They leave you with that mood.
Impression.
I just saw a gangster movie. Oh, they were so awesome. This one actually leaves you on a very somber, melancholic note, where you actually think a lot about what it all means, right? And that's what's so beautiful about the film. So please watch it. If you're someone who just likes gangster movies, you'll get a lot of that in the first 2.5 hours. A lot of subtle nods even to The Godfather. But the last 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour is what I really took away from it. When the movie just sort of changes gears and becomes this solitary sort of meditative movie about reflecting on the life you have lived, and what if that life involved taking the lives of the people you loved and your friends and all of that. And you're left alone essentially. You don't have family, you don't have friends, and what happens then? So yeah.
So people have been talking about how long the movie is. Do you notice that though?
I did not. So it's perfectly paced. Like I said, because the first 2 hours are like stuff you love from Scorsese and gangster films. That just goes in a breeze.
And the rest of it you can
you can sit through, because it makes you ponder over all the things you've seen come till now.
It's again based on a true story?
It is roughly. So it's based on a book called I Hear You Paint Houses.
Okay.
Which is so what's interesting about this is the De Niro character isn't a mafia boss. He's like one of the henchmen who does jobs for the mafia.
Yeah, he does dirty work,
right?
Yeah.
So there's apparently this character who wrote this version of events, but we only have his word to go for it. There is no way to rectify whether this person is actually, whatever he's saying is like 100% truth.
Okay, and all three of them, that is Joe Pesci and De Niro and Pacino.
They're all based on real characters. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Pacino,
but they're all mafiosos, or one of them is a cop or something.
None of them is a cop. The De Niro character actually goes through cycles. We start with him in the Second World War as a soldier.
Okay.
Then he becomes a truck driver. Then he becomes kind of a smuggler, which is when he gets noticed by the mafia. So the purely mafia guy is the not the Pacino character, the Pesci character.
Okay.
The Pacino character is this character called Jimmy Hoffa, who is actually a real person.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, so he was like this. He was
this is Prohibition era, what?
Not the Prohibition era. So from the 40s, the movies starts in the 40s and ends somewhere in the 90s.
Okay.
He was a union leader.
Okay.
But he used to take a lot of help from the mafia. So he was like this person who was perched for political fame.
Yeah.
But on the behind it all, he was also taking favors from the mafia.
Oh wow.
And how De Niro's character gets involved in this whole thing, and that's what it's about.
Man.
Yeah.
Those make for the best.
If you're a gangster fan, so like Scorsese deliberately, like he has a few blink and you miss cameos by the characters from The Sopranos. So if you're a gangster film aficionado, you'll find some Easter eggs as well.
Are you a fan of Sopranos as well?
I am. Yeah, Sopranos is great. So yeah. So The Irishman, totally worth the hype. I would recommend you watch it in one sitting instead of in parts. But anyway, you can please watch it. It's on Netflix right now, and I really
would you call this your favorite Scorsese movie?
Not really. I think Goodfellas is still my favorite.
Still your favorite. Departed is also one of my favorite.
So I would say Goodfellas, Irishman,
and then
Departed, Casino.
Whoa, now I have to watch this. Because he's like, Departed is one of my favorite films. So.
Okay. Have you seen Goodfellas?
No.
He said Goodfellas first.
Goodfellas is
so please watch that also. Yeah,
it's also on Netflix, I think.
Okay, it is on my list.
So Goodfellas and Casino have great dialogs, like quotable dialogue. Same with Irishman?
Same with Irishman. Like I said, Pacino gets a moment like the funny how. Funny.
Yeah.
So in this,
funny how.
Yeah, Pacino's character hates when someone comes to a meeting late, and in this one, someone comes to a meeting late and
gets his head bashed in or something.
Well, not exactly, but something similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So The Irishman is my recommendation. We'll quickly do a recap. Antariksh, you recommended?
I recommended Improvaganza and The Green Screen Show. Both that is Drew Carey's Improvaganza.
Where will these be available?
And Drew Carey's Green Screen Show. Both of them are available on YouTube.
Okay.
Rutika?
I recommended an Insta account called The Happy Broadcast.
Cool. I recommended the film The Irishman. When we come back from a break...
one more thing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Improvaganza, full episodes are not available anywhere anymore, but you can watch clips of the entire episode, like all the games.
Or you can use dubious means to
if you can find it. I've tried.
No, we've tried. I have tried, so we couldn't find you dubious means.
When we come back, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, we're going to be talking about depictions of the afterlife.
Yes.
And heaven and hell, and just what the hell happens after we...
we talk about the afterlife after break.
After the break.
Yes.
In pop culture though, guys. In pop culture. So we'll see you on the other side of this break.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors for the week, Storytel and Intel. Sponsors make this stuff possible. Please shout out to them. Let them know that you appreciate them paying us money. Also wanted to remind you all that we have an audience survey going. The audience survey is only going to be up for another couple of weeks. And I'm frankly disappointed. Even though 3 times the number of you people are listening to us as the last audio survey, only half of you have filled it out. So yeah, I mean, come on, please get to it. ivmpodcast.com/survey. We want your opinion to matter when we decide what we're going to do in the future. And I'm sure you want yours to matter too. So please do fill out the survey. A quick note, one of our favorite shows, States of Anarchy, hosted by the awesome Hamsini Hariran. This show is going to move to a fortnightly schedule starting 21st January 2020. Keep listening to it. It's a great show on global affairs, foreign policy, and more. On Cyrus Says this week, Cyrus talks to YouTuber, actor, and comedian Sahil Kathar. Sahil talks about the discoverability of artists through YouTube, playing Syed Kirmani in the upcoming film 83, and watching Cyrus on TV while growing up. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav talks about Vincent van Gogh and how the color blue is extremely significant to the people of Uzbekistan. On Paperback, Rachita and Satyajit talk with the duo Aditi Guha and Sandeep Ramesh about their love for storytelling and their different evolved tastes for books like Eat, Pray, Love on one hand and Sapiens on the other. On Litnama, Lakshmi is joined by author Jane Borges, who talks about her novel Bombay Balchao and stories of Mumbai as they weave through her life. The Simplified Gang is back with the last part to their 2019 recap. Join Chuck, Narayan and Tony as they talk about Amazon, Brexit and Gully Boy. On KBCD, Sunetra and Farah talk about their identities within the queer community of their respective cities and how it has evolved as they moved from one city to another. On IVM Likes, Abbas, Rutika, Alika and Antariksh talk about their pop culture resolutions for this year in 2020. On What a Player, Mikhail went for the India-Australia match at Wankhede Stadium. On Tuesday, have a listen to Siddharth and Mikhail talking about the experience. On Pulya Bazi, Pranay and Saurabh discuss the future of electric vehicles in India with Rahul Raj, co-founder of Inverted, an energy storage company. On our Kannada podcast Thale Harate, Sudha Narayan and Dr. Lohit HD join Ganesh Chakravarti to talk about the many lakh canine residents of Bangalore. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
And welcome back. We're still on IVM Likes. I'm here with Antariksh and Rutika.
Hello.
So this episode, we're going to be discussing depictions of afterlife in pop culture.
Yeah, imagine the suspense the people went through because you didn't mention it in the beginning of the episode.
But also we'll discuss what exactly is the afterlife and what constitutes post-death, basically.
Yeah.
This is a post...
and possibly what would be the ideal afterlife you would like?
That's a good question,
Yeah.
yes. So I'll start. When you mentioned this, Antariksh, the moment you said how... your suggestion was portrayal of heaven and hell in pop culture.
Correct.
So I thought of this film called Bedazzled, starring Brendan Fraser. I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen this?
I've heard of
This used to be on TV all the time when I was a kid. Elizabeth Hurley plays the devil.
Oh, wow.
And the premise of the movie is Brendan Fraser's character dies.
Yeah.
And he goes to the afterlife, and the devil is Elizabeth Hurley. So he's like, what the how the hell is a devil so hot and sexy? And so that's the avatar that the devil has put on to attract him. So he signs a deal with the devil to be reborn as whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And I think he gets a certain number of lives to live again. But when the life starts, so like in one life he'll be a really rich Spanish businessman living in a big bungalow. In another one he'll be an athlete. In another one, like whatever, he kind of like a genie thing, like grant your wishes. But something or the other always goes wrong, and he has to reboot himself. And if he lives out the kind of all the lives, then he goes to hell.
Wow.
Right, so that is the basic premise of the movie. There's also a guy who plays an angel. I think it's Gary Oldman, but I'm not very sure of that. I remember enjoying this movie a lot when I was a kid, mostly because Elizabeth Hurley was Satan in it.
I knew the reason.
And she wore a really hot red dress, and she had
I've seen parts of this movie.
Yeah?
Yes, I remember.
So
through the red dress,
Bedazzled was the one that instantly came to my mind when you said depictions of heaven and hell in pop culture. What do you guys have?
I have so I don't know how many people would have heard this. Have heard of this movie. It's called Enter the Void. I was just telling you about this.
Yeah, I've heard about this before also, but I've not seen this.
Okay,
film.
so basically it's a psychedelic trip.
Okay.
It's this document. It's kind of not a documentary, but it's a movie made in the style. So basically, what happens is this guy. He is a drug dealer.
Antariksh, you recommended the green screen, and you're recommending a psychedelic film. I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yeah. It is what it is, guys. Yeah, just don't let your parents hear this podcast. So just be careful, guys.
So what's the
so basically
premise?
The movie follows the POV of a guy named Oscar. You never really see him. You always so basically he's a drug dealer.
FPS.
FPS, yeah, basically like an FPS, but a slow moving FPS trip, like a psychedelic trip. Because so what happens is he's a drug dealer and drug smoker also. There's the entire sequence where he does a shot of DMT and then he trips and then they show some crazy visuals and then he comes back and then he goes to a restaurant. Now in the restaurant suddenly there's a raid of cops who've been sent after this guy because they had like what this guy has, like DMT is like a very highly illegal substance. So he's in the washroom and whatever, just trying to flush everything down. He's like, yeah, in a minute, I'm just coming out. He's trying to flush everything down and they shoot him through the washroom, so he dies. This is like in the beginning of the movie. Okay. He dies and so the rest of the movie is following his spirit as it leaves his body and goes into the past to check out how his parents met and how his childhood was and all. Then it goes to the present to see. So he also, I think, lives with his like prostitute sister. So she's also going through a very tough time and she finds out that this guy just died. So she's dealing with it in her own way. So then it follows her, like his spirit follows her around for a while and then it goes into the future about what things will be like and what she's dealing with then. And I think what I understood of the end, I don't know, this is spoilerish, but what I understood of the end is he is reincarnated as a sister's baby. Which is a weird end to the movie. But that's what I understood, that's what I remember.
Antariksh, I think you ruined it for us.
Yeah. But it's a trip. This movie is a
sounds
proper,
like it.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. It's a great trip and the visuals are amazing and very interesting.
Enter the Void.
Enter the Void.
Cool. Rutika.
Okay, so the first show that popped up in my head was The Good Place.
Of course,
because it's fresh in my memory and it's also...
And that's the one that like straight up head on takes the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I love about that show is it's not just depicting the afterlife. It's actually it actually tries to break down these deceptive images that you have about heaven and hell. Because I mean, what can be heaven for someone might be hell for someone else. And again, it's a lesson in morality. That's another part of it altogether. But I really love the fact that the show tries to topple all these ideas that we have about the afterlife.
That's true.
And so The Good Place.
What's the person's Michael Shore, right?
Michael Shore.
Also creator of Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
And
really?
Yeah. Creator of Parks and Rec, dude. Yeah, this guy's amazing. What a track record. Also before that, writer on The Office.
Okay.
So what a great track record this guy has. Dude.
I know.
So genius.
And he's the most amazing part is that again I heard it on the Ezra Klein show that you recommended. But he
it's like you accused him that you recommended Abbas. You
recommended.
So this recommendation is actually my recommendation, whatever your
technically, but it's not directly. It's not a direct recommendation. But he actually worked with a morality professor while writing the script. So it's actually a very beautiful study on how when we live our life and how it influences our morality, especially because we think about the future and we think about where we're going to end up in the afterlife.
So I remember watching The Good Place's first season and it's going great. It's a good season.
If you haven't,
and when the flip happens,
if you haven't seen the first season, there's a flip in the last
we
episode.
won't say what the flip is. But the flip happened and it blew my mind. I'm like, what? This is crazy. And that what really got me hooked into the second and third season after that.
In fact, that I didn't even need that to get me
correct. I didn't need that.
But
when it happened, I was...
It was another level.
It did.
Correct.
And I think what the show manages...
And that laugh that Ted Danson's character gives when he's caught, he just goes like, there's like an evil laugh. I don't know how you do it. It's so...
That was spoilerish.
Sorry.
And the casting is brilliant.
That was spoilerish.
That was. But the casting is also brilliant for it, especially because
really good,
it kind of...
correct. That Jamila Jamil's character, what's her name? Tahani's character. This is her first acting role ever.
Yeah.
And she's a good actress, dude.
She's a really good actress.
Really good actress. This is the first thing she's ever acted in. Like amazing. I could never tell.
Yeah.
Nice. Another show that comes to mind when you talk about portrayal of afterlife And the jury on this is still out, whether it was the Afterlife or not. And this is a full-on spoiler if you haven't seen this show, but the show I'm talking about is Lost.
Oh yeah.
I can spoil it because it's been 14 years since the show finale aired. Have either of you seen Lost all the way through?
No. And I know you're a mega fan.
I'm a mega fan. It's my favorite show of all time. Premise very simple. Plane crashes on an island. The 6 seasons follow these people who are on the island. Mysterious things start happening on the island.
Yeah.
And the way they built up the mystery, the final season was all the answers, all the questions are going to be answered. Was what we were expecting. The writers, Damon Lindelof, who is writer of Watchmen, Leftovers, another show which deals with Afterlife. But what Lost did was, what for me, the season finale, I thought what was beautiful is that, again, spoiler alert guys, they reveal that all these people have actually died. Right? Now, they do not tell you whether this was purgatory or whether this was heaven or this was hell, but this was some form of afterlife. Right?
Nice.
Where you... the format of the show was each episode dealt with one or two characters and you would flash back to their lives, quote unquote, on Earth. Right? So, the series finale essentially said that this was a place where they remunerated on what they did in their lives and made amends for it, and that's where it leaves it. Right? There's been if you go to any Lost Reddit board or YouTube videos, there are I think more than a dozen Lost ending explained videos where each person has their take on whether it was heaven or whether it was hell, whether it was just a place where.
What is your take on it?
My take on it, it's neither. It's why does why does Afterlife have to be classified into heaven or hell? It's just what scriptures tell us, so we take it for granted, right? So it's just
but that's not an ideal existence, that island, right?
It's not an ideal existence, but then every character has an arc where they changed by the time they reach the end. So that evolution in my head is like, that's what they repented for when for what they did in their lives. On a funnier note, another film that came to my mind when you mentioned depiction of Afterlife was Bruce Almighty.
I did know that, yes. I thought
goes into the skies and sees Morgan Freeman as God. And it's just clouds. Afterlife is just clouds.
And then he has the power.
He's got the power.
But we were discussing this. I mean, Afterlife, does it, like we mentioned Ghostbusters and Casper.
Also, if you think about it, Star Wars, Jedi Ghosts. It's kind of the Afterlife.
Force Ghosts, kind of like Afterlife.
Correct.
There's another one, it's a show because it's called The Ghost Whisperer. Okay,
I've heard about this. Yeah.
So basically, Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Okay, that's a movie. It's a movie.
It's a show. It's a show also. It's essentially ghosts help this detective solve crimes.
Yeah.
But that's actually a real thing. There's also this film called Hereafter by Clint Eastwood. It stars Matt Damon. Which is essentially, so the film starts with the tsunami that happened and people are lost, and one of Matt Damon's lover or relative dies in that, and he goes to this shaman-like woman who communicates through his dead fiance with him. And the film is called Hereafter. So it's
the movie Ghost.
Actually, the Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze movie.
Yeah, kind of one.
Oh yeah.
Also, isn't there a Whoopi Goldberg? Is that the same movie?
Whoopi Goldberg is also in
Ghost.
I think again she's the medium.
Didn't she win the Oscar for this movie?
I think she was nominated or won for it. I think
one of the few
back in the day.
Among the few people who have an EGOT, by the way.
Oh really?
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg.
You know what an EGOT is?
EGOT is Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
All four of us. I'm not surprised though. She's phenomenal.
I know John Legend has an EGOT as well.
What? John Legend?
John Legend has an EGOT.
John Legend?
And he's a singer, right?
In 30 Rock, Tracy Morgan's objective was to win an EGOT.
That's how I gotta win an
EGOT.
I gotta win an EGOT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So funny.
Okay, now
what else, guys?
Also, there is an anime called Death Parade, which is basically
it can never happen. You're on a show and we don't talk about anime.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, it's just what it is. And comedy. some recommendation in comedy and something in anime. There's an anime called Death Parade, which basically each episode. Death Parade.
Okay.
Each episode is basically these two people come out of an elevator and they don't know where they are. They don't have any memories as to how they came to be there.
Okay,
and they have to play. They enter this bar basically. I think the bar was called Quint Decim or something like that. I forgot the full name, proper name. And so what the bartender does is makes them play games. And then during the game, they are told that you have actually died. And to decide whether you will end up in heaven or in hell, you have to play this game. And depending on what the results is, you will that will be sorted. We will decide as to where you go. Now the trick is, it is not actually dependent on who wins or loses. They're not told this. It actually depends on how they act during the game. Like if they are being like very selfish or like very selfless, or they're being like, basically the character defines where they end up, not the results of the actual game. So it's a very cool anime called Death Parade.
Death Parade, cool. We were talking about this. Can Interstellar be considered an afterlife movie?
I mean, he didn't.
He goes into a black hole.
He does.
And then he loses the sense of linear time and space.
In fact, by that logic, there are a lot of films that could be.
Sure.
But then by that, but what you're saying, if that is an afterlife movie, that means he came back to life in the end, though. That's not reality anymore. You can't really come back to life unless like a superhero movie.
Well, I mean, most of the things in Interstellar aren't reality. It's an assumption.
Yeah, but
I'll tell you why. Because
also, well, it's possible. Who knows? Because it's possible that you go into a black hole, and because it sucks in everything, it also sucks in your spirit. So when you do finally come out, you come out intact with your spirit. I don't know this. Don't quote me on this, guys.
Nice stuff, man. That stuff you gave us before the recording. That's some really good stuff.
Staple करके भेज रहे हैं spirit को.
I'm waiting for the Enter the Void sequel with Antariksh's point of view. I'll tell you why. Because in our heads, the moment you die, for some reason we have this notion that the concept of space and time ceases to exist. You just go into this sort of
waiting room.
Also, for sure, when Rutika dies, she is going into a library. That is for sure. So,
if that is the case, I'm definitely going to heaven. Like, that's my idea of heaven.
But what if every book is a Chetan Bhagat novel?
Oh!
Boom!
Oh my god!
Alright, gonna wrap up this episode
Wait. There
are two things that you have. Sorry.
One is, I know that by that logic, now that you've mentioned Interstellar, there's also Supernatural, the show.
I haven't seen
where
it.
These two hot hunks, two brothers who are trying to kill supernatural beings.
Right.
Not kill supernatural beings, but like deal with supernatural
Also,
beings.
if you think about it, Ghost Rider has a bit of hell in it.
Oh yeah.
It's a pretty good depiction.
That does, yes.
Hell.
Yeah.
Also, Spawn on a similar line.
Yeah.
The movie Spawn.
We didn't even reach books, but it's okay. Probably in the next episode.
I mean, that way comic books have a lot of derivation from heaven and
like
hell.
the Graveyard Book. Also.
The Graveyard Book, even the Spider-Man villain called Mephisto.
Correct.
Is literally a hell, close to Satan.
Agent of
Another thing, meet Joe Black. It has Brad Pitt in it. And so Brad Pitt is Grim Reaper, who, takes the shape of a human and comes on Earth. And he, the guy, there's this tycoon who's trying to guide him about what it is to live like a human. And he ends up falling in love with the tycoon's daughter. So that's...
Oh man, I just remembered this movie. It's called The Devil? Or something? Devil. It's called Devil.
Okay.
The movie's name is Devil.
Okay.
Basically, it follows these people who are stuck in an elevator.
What's with you in an elevator?
I don't know. I didn't plan this. They're stuck in an elevator and the lights go off, the elevator stops, and one of them dies.
Just like that.
Yeah, one of them dies. And it comes, the lights come back on, and now they're trying to figure out like who killed these people in the elevator. But the only thing they do know is one of them inside the elevator is the devil.
Ooh,
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
it's an English movie?
It's an English movie.
Okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Antariksh, just a suggestion. You can do any job in the world, but do not market films.
Because I just give out.
No, he just gave you the premise.
The premise. This is
that
the premise.
someone dies in the dark in the lift and one of them is a devil.
Again, I think it's called The Devil. But you'll get it, guys. I'm sure if you search for Devil Lift movie death, you'll find it. But it's a good movie, yes.
I will end this by asking you guys, what do you think happens after we die? Rutika, what do you think happens after?
Do not shoot that question right at me first. Talk to Antariksh
Okay,
first.
Antariksh has a plan, I think.
Yeah, he has a plan of action.
I really don't know, man. Oh, also I forgot to mention, sorry, one more thing, guys. There is a very funny depiction of hell in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Okay, so every time you die,
that way even I would like to mention a lot of episodes of The Simpsons do a lot of heaven and hell.
Correct.
Check it out.
Oh, sorry. Sunny, they don't show hell; they show heaven. Sorry. But the depiction of heaven is clouds and just super buff dudes that Mac is secretly attracted to. Is one of the characters on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the depiction of hell. Where it is the.
What do you think happens after we die?
What do I think? I really don't know, man. That's I hope that everyone stays happy after death. I would really like to be, I don't know, the people I leave behind in my life. I would like to be able to keep in touch in some way.
Ooh,
spooky, yeah, but it's good for my own sake.
Spooky for them.
Spooky
good for you, but
yeah, but also like closure for them, in a certain way.
Freaking burned this guy. Why is he coming back? Okay, not bad. Like, want people to be happy. What about you, Rutika? What do you think happens after we die?
I still feel like I am going to be like a little like Antariksh. I want to haunt certain people. So
I didn't say haunt.
Said keep in touch.
I want to be digitally alive, if not physically alive.
I mean, she's hoping for the interstellar
because
end.
I definitely feel like the future holds like an app that probably, and it's something that is depicted in Black Mirror.
In fact, it said that the first person to live forever has already been born.
Yeah. So Black Mirror has this episode,
Wait,
and I
what?
want to be able to be.
As in some way or the other, you'll be able to store your consciousness before you die.
Yeah.
And science will
Have
progress
the capacity.
enough or have the capacity to recreate your body or put your consciousness into the other body.
Oh.
By the way, I'll tell you this story maybe off air, but there is a very legit theory right now that when a person dies, their consciousness still stays in this world. Yeah. I'll tell you a story off air.
Very
it's a very long
interesting,
story,
guys. Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay.
So that's what I want to do. I want to be digitally alive.
Nice. There's a dystopian sci-fi novel in there.
What about you, man?
Well, so I think in the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Islam and Judaism, we are fed the concept of afterlife from a very young age, right? It's almost played out as a threat that agar ye nahi kiya, you'll burn in hell. If you don't do this, you'll burn. So my concept of hell, I just hope it's whatever there is that lies beyond this life has a lot more justice. Otherwise, a lot of bad guys get away with a lot of things that they did and not paying for it.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Oh.
That's pretty deep. Nice.
On that bright note.
Basically, Abbas wants to go to court after he dies.
Yeah, I won't mind. If the afterlife is a courtroom thriller, I am all for it.
Great. We'll send you to court.
Wow, what does that mean?
Lady with the
Lady Justice.
Lady Justice will get you.
In a red dress.
In a red dress.
Bedazzled Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to the end of this episode.
This is actually a very lively death-related episode.
Please tell us what you think happens after we die. If you have
after you die.
After I die.
There's some celebration. Sorry, no.
If there's any movies or TV shows or books that you think we've missed that talk about the afterlife in an insightful way, let us know on IVM Likes. Use the hashtag IVM Likes. Reach out to us at IVM Podcast on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
You can follow us individually as well. My Insta handle is AbbasMomin88. On Twitter, I am just Abbas Momin. What about you, Antariksh?
Antariksh is Antariksh T on Instagram and Antariksh Tack on Twitter. Please follow Antariksh.
Okay.
Rutika?
And please also Google Antariksh. You will find a lot of Chandrayaan images.
Oh,
the
God.
first thing and my handle on Instagram is that girl inside the library.
All right, cool. We will see you next week with a new panel and a new topic and new recommendations. Till then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Shidaditya.
And I'm Amit Doshi.
And we host Shunya One.
It's a really fun podcast where we talk to some of the best entrepreneurs in the country.
Yes, talking about everything from their startup challenges to what they're building and all the future of technologies right here.
So catch us on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you listen to your podcast from.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, And now, Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.